It's now time for the morning watch with the Union Health Balance. Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org and if you're overseas and on the move. U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, deaths higher in the police population, examining a recent study. And in the second watch, is there a power supply predicament in Jamaica? For our social media question, we ask, which would be your preferred form of energy? JPS, LNG, or a renewable source? We're asking you to share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's I quote.
All right, today's I quote is from Thomas Merton, and it says, "Peace demands the most heroic labor and the most difficult sacrifice."
Good morning, Jakal.
Good morning.
Yeah, that quote is self-explanatory.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a profound quote.
By Thomas Merton.
Speaking about the labor needed and the sacrifice that entails when we are talking about real peace. Yep.
Agreed.
The first watch will be back after this break.
Have to be a man, got to be a man.
I am a man. On the next episode of the Mailbox, we will be focusing on Men's Fellowship Tour. This is our third stop in a series of male fellowship link-ups. What are the activities taking place among men in the church? Are there solutions to attract and retain more males in the church community? You are invited to join us as we spend time with Pastor Maxwell Slowly and Deacon Kevin Slowly, Assemblies of the Firstborn Church International, Santa Hill, on Wednesday, May 1 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station. Love 101, the Mailbox, Monday.
Hey everybody, it's time for Small People with Auntie Vashti. That's right, it's the Small People Show with me, Auntie Vashti, every Monday to Friday at 4:30 p.m. Listen up, children, this is our time, and every day we want you in on the great things we are doing inside the Small People Show. We come to have fun. We come to help you through those rough days. We're educational, inspirational, and the Small People Show with Auntie Vashti is taking over the nation. Every child must know that they are special because God created you special. That's the Small People Show with me, Auntie Vashti, Monday to Friday at 4:30 p.m. It's on the family station, Love 101. Now, with inspiration now, and every afternoon, Small People.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, recent statistics have revealed that from 2013 to 2023, murders and road traffic deaths have been proportionally higher for the police than for the general population. It is said that numbers do not lie. So what are these statistics saying to us today? And what are the innate issues and implications? Well, to answer these and other related questions, we have online Dr. Paul Bourne, lecturer and research consultant. Good morning to you, Dr. Bourne. Again, good morning, Dr. Bourne. Are you muted, Dr. Bourne? We're seeing you, Dr. Bourne, or we recognize your presence online. Okay, we need to sort this out. Listeners, we'll be right back.
Make we keep Jamaica clean. Me as we keep Jamaica, keep Jamaica, keep Jamaica clean. Keep Jamaica, keep Jamaica, keep Jamaica clean. Our duty to keep our island clean. Mobile to Kingston, sidewalk and beach. Bag it, bin it, recycle it, please. Proper garbage disposal, make we do it. Keep Jamaica, keep Jamaica, keep Jamaica clean. Keep Jamaica, keep Jamaica. A message from the National Solid Waste Management Authority.
Mindset Conference 2024, the Gospel Edition, Monday to Wednesday, May 20 to 22, at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel, with Pastor John Gray, Pastor Travis Green, Dr. Jackie Green, Todd Gammer, Phil Thomas, Minister Marion Hall, Kevin Downswell, Sherwin Gardner, Rhoda Isabella, Pastor Junior Tucker, Bishop Everton Thomas, and many more. Join us for dinner, workshop, panel discussion, praise and worship, undiluted word, and concert every night. Mindset Conference. For more info, mindsetconference.org. Get your tickets now.
If you're a farmer or a fisher folk, this one's for you. Sagicor AgriCare Plan. With AgriCare Plan, you can get affordable insurance coverage for you and your family. Life insurance, health insurance, and the critical illness coverage for as little as $675 every 3 months. Visit your nearest RADA or fisheries office or call 876-936-7785 to apply. Farmers and fisher folks, get the insurance coverage your family deserves today with Sagicor AgriCare Plan. Conditions apply.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today, 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. It's the telephone counseling and prayer ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When I come to the end of myself, Father, carry me.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. Of course, we are discussing in this, the first watch, the whole matter of deaths being higher in the police population proportionally than for the general population. And in so doing, we have online Dr. Paul Bourne, lecturer and research consultant. Good morning to you, Dr. Bourne.
Good morning and good morning. I'm actually enjoying the beauty of outside and actually listening to what you have to say this morning.
Why not? Yes. Dr. Bourne, what prompted the need to have the aforementioned study done, and what specifically were the findings?
Okay, now fundamentally, I'm concerned about providing information to Jamaicans that they can actually use to make better decisions. And who else to actually look at but the police, the group that is serving us, to sort of see what is happening to them, how are they faring, to understand what we can do to assist them as they try to serve and protect us.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So some fundamental findings that will actually shock you, that 20% of the murders, all right, let me look at all deaths in the police force, all deaths in Jamaica. 20% of the deaths in the police force are murders. In Jamaica, the figure is 6.5%.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a startling finding. You're talking about 1 in every 5 deaths in the police force is a murder, and 6 out of every 100 for the Jamaican population. So it means that those who are serving us are more at risk of dying or to be murdered compared to a Jamaican. So it's safer to be a Jamaican than to be a police officer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that is telling in terms of what is actually going on with all the population of that group that seeks to serve and protect the population.
Yes. Any other specifics in that regard?
There are some issues that happen, and there's a figure that I want to give the Jamaican. We're talking almost 30% of the of deaths in the police force in 2021 were murders, and we're comparing it to 6% for the population. And when you look at even road traffic incidents, death, fatality as a result of that, the police is actually reflecting numbers that are sometimes 7 times more than the general population. Take, for example, take the overall figure. 17% of the population, almost 17%, 16.27 for the police in terms of road traffic death. In terms of Jamaica, almost 2%.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what is happening to the police in terms of them being murdered and the higher risk of them being killed in a motor vehicle accident compared to the general population. Something has to be looked at to sort of see what we can sort of do to assist the police, because clearly they are more unsafe than the average Jamaican.
And I don't know, but were you able to compare these figures with other nations in the region?
No, there are. I tried to find things in the region. There's none. I went outside Jamaica to look in the States, in the United States, and did not find what we were looking at. What we found substantially were the total number of deaths in terms of on-the-job deaths compared to the total number of deaths and the breakdown in terms of murders, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why was the period 2013 to 2023 chosen for the study?
Okay, fundamental. I always want to give information to persons that are current. So if I go a period before this, all I want to do is to ensure that Jamaican have information that is current and not archaic or old things that they can say, listen, I don't need to look at it, don't need to read it, it's irrelevant. So we chose as close as possible 2024, which is 2023. And I like to look at a 10-year period to sort of see any patterns inside what is actually going on during that period.
Okay, Dr. Bourne, hold that thought, please. We are up on a break. We'll be right back.
AccuLab Diagnostics Limited, located at ATL Plaza in Montego Bay, for all your blood testing needs. Open every day, including Sundays, 6132714.
The time by AccuLab Diagnostics Limited is
7:15.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And in this, the first watch, we have been discussing deaths being higher in the police force than in the general population, proportionally speaking. It was done in terms of a study. And we are talking to Dr. Paul Bourne on the matter, who is a lecturer and a research consultant. Now, before the break, you were telling us, Dr. Bourne, why the 2013 to 2023 time frame was chosen.
Yes, I said that I wanted to provide current information to persons for us to use. We're talking about we are in April of 2024. So when you take a period up to 2023, it means it's rather current. And that was the reason for actually using the period. And I like to use 10-year or 20-year studies to look at patterns on anything that are happening inside of it. But what I also want to point out to the Jamaican people, particularly your listeners, is that during the COVID-19 period, we saw almost a 27% increase in deaths among police officers.
Why was that?
2020, a 20% increase. No, we don't know. We don't know. But what does that mean? Something's actually going on in the force that is actually seeing these substantial increases in deaths and these high levels of murders in the police force. And of course, that is no warranting studies to examine what is going on among police officers, what is their psychological state, what is their, we're fully aware that it's a high stress job that they have. But what we want to understand is that, is this high stress job that they are engaged in creating challenges for them in terms of their personal life and is actually causing them to die at this alarming rate?
Interesting, you mentioned the word alarming. But before I even go there, any insight you can give us as to how this study was done?
Okay, what we did is, like we have always been, we're doing data for the police. We gather data from the police statistical department. So they actually pull the data that they have, that is, on deaths in the force, and they disaggregated it in terms of genders for us and various years, so we can get a full understanding of what is happening in terms of deaths in the police force.
And you mentioned gender. Were there any interesting observations in regards to gender?
Oh yes, and that is a startling one. We're talking about deaths in the police in terms of the gender disparities, mammothly different. We're talking in excess like 20 to 1, 20 males dying to 1 female. It is that bad in terms of the general population. But of course, we understand.
And the general population is what in that regard over that period of time? The gender.
I did not look in terms of the gender distribution in terms of the population for that period of time.
Okay.
But what I looked at in terms of the police to sort of see what is going on. But what we need to understand clearly, there's also a gender distribution in terms of males to females in the police force, but it's not as high as 20 to 1. But what we do know is something is clearly happening to our men in the police force.
Yes. Right, because more men in the police force anyway, right?
Yes, substantially more men than women. But the ratio is not 20 to 1.
Right. What's your response, though, Dr. Bourne, to those who contend that the findings really should not be alarming because most members of the force are on the front line of danger and therefore more vulnerable to death by murder?
And if that is your argument, that what you're saying, that people should not actually enter the police force to protect us, so that cannot be an argument.
If that's what this is going to create. But
it is saying to the average person, listen, I mean, you are safe for not being a police. Now, can you imagine you're protecting and you have something to protect you like compared to the average Jamaican, and you're unsafer than the average Jamaican? So this speaks volume as to what the society is in terms of Jamaica.
It's a high-risk job, Dr. Bourne. I mean, every police
it is not only high risk. It's not only high risk. It's a death trap. Not only high risk is a death trap that you're going to be engaged in. But at the same time, what we're saying, we need to look at what is actually going on, because clearly something is happening in the general society that's actually showing this level of decay. To have where a group of persons who are to serve and protect you are so vulnerable to death, particularly murder.
What was there anything that came up in regards to age?
No, we didn't actually do it by age, and that is a good thing you actually spoke to and off. But clearly, you know what research is all about. Research is actually trying to actually look at things, and the more we look at things and the more questions are asked, is the more we go back into the field and get information to actually give your listeners.
And you know why I asked that? Because chances are the younger police men and women are the ones more at risk in terms of their natural inclinations and behavior.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we actually found that in terms of the road traffic deaths, that there were substantially younger persons. I think we're talking about from 25 to I think 44, 34, somewhere there, in terms of death, in terms of road traffic accidents.
Now, how can or will the findings of the study be useful to the JCF?
Well, what we have done, we have actually done a study in terms of looking at proposals and suggestions that the JCF should actually look at. And we have put those suggestions inside a study for the JCF to use. Not that they have to use those, but they can provide some basis for the JCF to make decisions. Now, what clearly it means is that, and I spoke to a group of police officers last week in terms of senior police officers, and I was making them aware that they need to now speak to the average Jamaican within a certain context. Why? Study was done to show that there was a 37% increase in depression among Jamaicans, and that 35% of men indicate some level of depression. So I'm saying to the senior officers, if we are in a population at this level of vulnerability in terms of people's psychological state, it's highly likely that they're going to meet an individual who is depressed, particularly a male. And I'm saying they have now got to speak to their subordinates, their lower rank members, to say, when you see a male, do not address a male as you normally would in terms of an aggressive, vulnerable manner, because you could just be meeting on somebody who is depressed, who does not want to live.
Hold it a while there, Dr. Bourne. In terms of the males, are you saying that males are generally more depressed than females in Jamaica?
No. We're not saying that. As a matter of fact, we actually did a study on that to say that the females were more depressed than the males.
Right.
We are just saying
more lethal methods, the males.
Because remember, it is substantially males that are actually doing the killing. All right. So we are saying to the police, 3 out of every 10 male that you meet is depressed, and we're talking about 10% of them indicate that they don't want to live. So it's highly likely that a police will meet an individual who doesn't want to live, and if he doesn't want to live, and not only that, 7% of them, 3% of them indicate they're willing to commit suicide. So that means that most of those who are depressed and don't care of living would prefer you kill them. So they would rather the police do that than they do it themselves. So the police is in a state where they need to understand that they are meeting individuals who don't want to live, don't care to live, and therefore would prefer to do something for a policeman to take him out, or he takes out the policeman. So the police has now got to understand that the environment in which they are serving and living and working must be one in which they understand how the people are thinking, particularly what is going on with the males.
But it's part for the course, Dr. Bourne. It's their job.
Yes, it's part of the course, but then they're not aware of what is going on. So we're providing with information, because the average thing, and we need to understand clearly that the police force was started out of a paramilitary phenomenon. And a number of police officers believe that that is the approach to take. And if that is the approach that they are going to take, what they're going to do is to put themselves into more vulnerable positions for death and other things.
What can or will the findings of the study do in terms of the society at large?
Does the society care about police officers? And I'm not sure. And that is where the challenge is, because it appears to me, based on another research that we're actually doing as we speak, is that the average Jamaican does not trust the police. And if they don't trust the police, they really don't care what is happening to them. But what we need to understand clearly, think for a second, if we were to have no police officer on the streets for a day or a month.
Right.
So people need to understand clearly that if you don't care then we need to understand clearly, can we live without them?
And based on what you just said a while ago, what can or should we do as other members of the population in regards to these concerns with the police force?
It is simple. We need to start first by actually recognizing the value of a police officer. 2, understand clearly that they are people that have emotions, feelings, going through situations as we do. And 3, try to ensure that we make their job better in terms of 1, reduce their vulnerability, and 2, find a nice, encouraging way of speaking to them and encouraging them to be better and better persons each day as they serve us.
Yes, and that is so much needed, especially when you talk to a number of the members of the police force. They really appreciate the encouragement. Dr. Bourne, as we wind down our discussion, what do you think needs to be done to ensure that these findings are not the same? Should there be another study done within the next decade?
Excellent. What we're doing, we're starting a campaign in terms of making not only the people of Jamaica be aware of what is actually going on, but we are also putting this to the hierarchy of the force to let them become cognizant of what the findings are. And we are doing our other studies looking at what is going on internally in the force, and we're providing that information to the hierarchy for them to understand the state of the police officers and how likely they are to be murdered and killed in road traffic accident, and also look at their mental state and what is happening in the force to alleviate some of these challenges that police officers are facing.
So you have shared, no doubt this information is known by the hierarchy of the police force, but what has been the feedback so far?
We have not got a feedback so far, but of course we trust within the context of what is happening in the force now, in terms of having a commissioner who is an academic, and a number of other persons are academic inside the force, and they understand the value and importance of using data to make decisions. So we're hoping, and I think it will happen, where they convert a number of these findings into actions to make a difference in time in terms of the police officers' lives and well-being.
And is there anything systematically put in place to ensure in terms of follow-up, in terms of time frame?
Very, very good question. And the answer to that is no. But what is happening, which maybe the average Jamaican is not aware of it, but police officers are continuously trained, all right, by the staff college. So because they are continuously trained by the staff college, what happens is that police officers now will be doing research into areas that are actually affecting them and into areas in the society. And what they are now knowing is, given that they are the managers, the leaders, they can automatically implement what they have actually discovered from their studies.
Yes. And going forward, any final thoughts, any words of advice, any more alarming news?
No more alarming news. But what we want each person in terms of your listeners and the wider public to understand is that police are humans. They have families. Not only do they have families, but they want to live and occupy the space that we also want to live and occupy. Okay. So what we need to do is to make their lives better by doing what we can do to make their lives better.
Yes, a fitting note on which to end. We want to thank you, Dr. Bourne, for joining us this morning, giving us the information and the insight. Have a safe and productive day, sir.
Thank you, and the same to your listeners.
Great. Listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
Anything possible with a little savings in your hand.
The time by Jan Bank is
7:30.
Mindset Conference 2024, the Gospel Edition, Monday to Wednesday, May 20 to 22, at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel with Pastor John Gray, Pastor Travis Green, Dr. Jackie Green, Todd Garber, Phil Thomas, Minister Marion Hall, Kevin Dowswell, Sharon Gardner, Rhoda Isabella, Pastor Junior Tucker, Bishop Everton Thomas, and many more. Hosted by Nadine Blair, IT Ellis, Ella the Boy, Zephaniah Dixon, Angelic One, Angela. Join us for dinner, workshop, panel discussion, praise and worship, undiluted word, and concert every every night. Mindset Conference, equipping, encouraging, and empowering the creatives in the kingdom of Christ. For more info, mindsetconference.org. Get your tickets now. Powered by the Holy Spirit and the Empire Management. God is the answer.
Everyone has a big to-do list nowadays. With this busy schedule, it's easy to forget about yourself. Don't neglect your blood work. Just go for a quick and easy testing with Aculab Diagnostics Limited. Swift, simple testing, tailored to your timetable. They're open every day, including Sundays, keeping pace with your calendar. Dial 613-2714 for more details. That's 613-2714. Quick results, late hours. Because you matter.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. In the Gleaner, record US $4.38 billion, that's with a B, earnings from tourism. Wow. Also in the Gleaner, long lines from frustration grows as Cuba runs short of cash. And then in the Observer, tax shortfall. Clark warns revenue underperformance could impair or impact spending this fiscal year. And also in the Observer, vast majority of Jamaicans not seeing any prosperity, says Paulwell. In Loop News, manner of Jamaican teens' death in the U.S. ruled natural by coroner investigation. And then finally, Blinken urges Israel and Hamas to move ahead with a ceasefire deal. Those are some of the major stories in our newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our social media question. Which would be your preferred form of energy? JPS, LNG, or a renewable source? We're asking you to leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. Soon come back.
Time with double up your savings. These are the things that are in a waiting. To take the water dreams you've been chasing. Double up your savings. Double up.
Save so you can win in the Jan Bank Double of Your Savings promotion. You could be one of 5 lucky quarterly winners to walk away with double the money you put in your savings account. Conditions apply.
Double up your savings.
Check our website and social media for details. Jan Bank will help you find a way. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your wealth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now join Jokal for a look at how our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp friends answer today's question: which would be your preferred form of energy, JPS, LNG, or a renewable source? Jokal?
All right. Monica says simply, whichever energy source is abundant, accessible, safer, reliable, and cheaper. And she left it right there.
Just like that.
Just like that. Simple put.
All right, that's who, Monica?
Monica, yes.
Thank you very much, Monica. We appreciate the response. Okay, as we now segue into the second watch, listeners, as we are guided and encouraged to find more efficient and cheaper forms of energy, a number of persons have actually made the investments, from solar panels to windmills, within homes and in business establishments. Yet, there are those who argue that Jamaica still has a power supply predicament. Is this really so? Well, to discuss this and other related matters, we have joining us MP Philip Paulwell, Shadow Minister of Mining and Energy, and Mr. David Barrett, Certified Energy Manager. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Morning, Minister Powell. Morning, Dr. Toussaint.
Yes, good to have you both. Thanks for joining us this morning. Gentlemen, from your vantage point, what is the current and overall status of power supply in Jamaica? Beginning with you, MP Paulwell.
All right. Well, in terms of the supply of energy, and let me say good morning to your listeners as well. The JPS produces a little more than about 20% of our actual demand for electric energy. So we haven't had recently, power cuts because of lack of capacity. I think from time to time there are technical issues that result in power cuts. But the main problem we face as a country is the high price of electric energy that coming from the national grid. And in my presentation yesterday, I pointed to the fact that in the 8-year period between 2016 and now, the price has moved from about 23 cents back up to 40 cents, which was where I found it when I became Energy Minister in 2002. That is a tremendous burden to the people of this country. It is not only to homeowners, residential customers, but also to businesses. And one of the reasons why, as a country, we have not seen real growth in our economy, because energy is a substantial part of the production process. So in a nutshell, I believe that we have to do some fundamental rearrangement, starting with JPSCO, but at the individual level, each person can make an impact by either doing the transitioning from the current system with JPSCO. You could have a hybrid where you incorporate your own sources, and then after that you attach to the grid. Or, as we have seen with technology, you can do a complete break of the grid if you move towards especially a solar system solution.
Yes, and just to be clear, you are saying, MP Paulwell, that from your vantage point, we do not have a power supply problem. You say we have enough to supply the country, right?
Yes, we have enough. Plus, we do have enough sun and wind, and we do have limited hydropower as well. So we really ought not to have any shortage.
Okay, we'll do it that way. Okay, Mr. Barrett, your take on the matter?
Yes, I do agree with Minister Paulwell's assessment. JPS has on the books about 1,040 megawatts or so. It is well above our peak demand from day to day. And we have a number of sources where they are actually putting power on the grid. You have the independent power producers putting in almost 550 megawatts. You have JPS itself with its fossil fuel plants, another 300 or so. And then you have a multitude of renewable IPPs and JPS itself putting in, just a little short of another 200 megawatts. So we do have enough power. That's not, in terms of capacity, that's not really a challenge.
Right.
What Minister Powell mentioned about the options that people may choose does include putting renewables. We have a policy called a net billing policy, and it's in the regulations, where you have the opportunity as a residential to put in as much as 10 kilowatts on your home facility. And if you're a commercial entity, you can go up to 100 kilowatts. And then there's an auxiliary arrangement, which needs a little bit more detailing. It tends to be a direct negotiation where other capacities might be added. So capacity is not really the issue, but how do we get down the price for electricity?
Right.
As already mentioned, it's quite high. I think the highest it has been went up to about 70 cents per kilowatt hours, and these are US cents, but it has oscillated somewhere around 35 US cents to about 45 US cents. And the options for bringing that down include changing the fuel or energy source, one being adding sources which are lower in cost, or using the renewable options that we have, which are coming in terms of delivery on the grid at this point in time, actually lower than fossil fuel. But it does also mean that you may have to put in some backup systems, as JPS did with a 24 megawatt battery flywheel storage system. So it really is a commercial and technical process of trying to get those numbers down.
Yes, but what has been the difficulty though, Mr. Barrett? You are the expert in terms of these matters. Why have we been able to reduce the cost over the years?
Well, perhaps one of them is that JPS has old infrastructure that is quite capital intensive, and they need the time to change out so that the maintenance of those systems don't cost as much. That's something that you and I as individuals can't control. That's something that the company itself has to control, right? But then one of the things also that is needed is the incorporation of the right energy mix or integrated resource plan, which is a sort of overall national plan for how we produce energy for Jamaica, looks at diversifying the fuel sources. Now, natural gas was believed to be one of those low-cost sources that would have brought our costs down, but perhaps it wasn't considered how natural gas would be a high demand globally, because as nations went towards cleaner energy sources and now net zero, a lot of them pursued natural gas as opposed to coal and other fossil petroleum sources. So now instead of a low-cost fuel, it became a highly competitive option for generation. So the initial thoughts were right, but it has not worked out in our favor. I would say that we need to look at the sources or add more of the sources we have, or hydro, or wind, and our solar. Minister Paul already mentioned these, in order to control our energy costs over the longer term. And I think that is what will bring our costs down in terms of the government's determination through the GPE, the government procurement entity, and the OUR. And then JPS has to find a way to change out some of its old infrastructure and incorporate new generation, which has a lower generation cost.
Hearing it loud and clear, Mr. Barrett. You're up on a break. We'll be right back.
Follow the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development on Instagram and X at LocalGovJA. The time by the ministry is
7:45.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and it's the second watch. We're asking the question, is there a power supply predicament in Jamaica? And of course, we're looking on the whole matter of the costs attained therein. And in so doing, we have online Mr. David Barrett, Certified Energy Manager, and MP Philip Paulwell, Shadow Minister of Mining and Energy. Minister Paulwell, I don't know if you'd wanted to say anything
Yes.
to the cost and why is it we have taken so long?
Oh, yes. I would like to go back to that issue of cost because there are some things that can be done immediately. Mr. Barr spoke about the fact that the JPSCO controls the transmission and distribution, and there are certain inefficiencies there. A glaring inefficiency is the fact that 200,000 households don't pay for electricity, they steal electricity, and that contributes about 70% of the cost to those consumers who pay. I had put forward a plan to deal with those 200,000 households by using resources from the hedge fund to provide a solar solution. The fact is that the price of panels, inverters, and now batteries, that price has fallen dramatically over time. And I'm just anxious for the debate to happen in Parliament where we can establish that you can put up now a 3 kilowatt facility or even a 5 kilowatt solar facility for a price that could come within the resources that are available under the hedge fund, and within 4 to 5 years you could solve this pernicious problem once and for all. I also want to go back to the issue of LNG because Mr. Barrett is quite correct. It was a massive transformation that was achieved by the government at the time to install about 60% capacity of the total capacity now using liquefied natural gas. We haven't seen the full benefits flowing, and I challenged the minister yesterday because the intention when we go the LNG route was for it not to be a monopoly supplier of LNG, but rather we put in place regulations that would enable competition in terms of the supply of the gas to Jamaica. We do have a provider that established the facility, which is a regasification facility, but it was meant that the pass-through, the LNG that would come to Jamaica would not be dictated by one supplier, but that the world will be able to compete in this way. But it has not happened. The regulations have been on the books, not on the books. They have been drafted since 2015, and those have not been promulgated. I believe that those two matters, the electricity theft and bringing competition to the LNG market, could assist us tremendously.
You mentioned 200,000 households?
Yes, out of the 600,000 households that are connected to the grid, 200,000 of them don't pay for electricity. And it has been a problem that has been with us for some time. Yes. But I believe that the government has a responsibility. And indeed, because of the improvements in the technology, especially for solar, there is a solution that is viable. And I really am hoping that we'll seize this opportunity, especially because we do have the hedge fund money, and the government collects between 5 and 7 billion annually. We could use that to defray the cost of electricity by at least 17% to the consumer.
Mr. Barrett, I think I came across an article recently that was saying some of the major companies who divested in terms of, or invested in terms of renewable energy, some of them are having second thoughts now. Okay, you want to say what's going on with that?
Well, it is a matter and the business of businesses to look at how they can cut expenses, how they can increase profitability. And so when they looked at their electricity costs, they found that it was a significant portion. I think some of the statistics suggest that it can be easily a third of your input costs. And so, clearly any wise CEO would say, well, how do we cut this? Now, the challenge with that is that energy now becomes a secondary activity that you have to outfit your company with, almost to the extent of your primary production. So, when you go into megawatt scale generation, you have to ensure that you have enough. It's like you buy a car, you don't drive with 4 tires, you get a spare tire in the, in the trunk, or you get the repair kit. For them, they can't afford now to suddenly have a maintenance schedule or a downtime and all the production goes. So they actually put in more generation than they need every day. That's a cost. They have to get engineers who can take care of that, but that's not what they're necessarily doing as their core activities. When they start to add up those costs, and then of course you have transformers and you have various fees and so on and so on. When they add up those costs, sometimes it doesn't work out exactly the way it was envisioned. And so the companies may be struggling a little bit working through all those fine details.
Is it a deficiency in the feasibility study that would have been done before?
Not necessarily, because the feasibility study would look at the, return on investment and so on for the power plant system. Internally, what the company now has to do is to look at that initial capital cost, the return on investment, and how that fits into the company's total budgetary structure. And that is where they will see whether it makes sense for them to do that, or maybe to just go partially, cut in some of their expense, which is perhaps a better way to go. Cut some of your expense rather than trying to come off the grid and be your own power company.
Yeah. I don't know if MP Paul will want to say anything on that. Feel free if you want to. But okay.
But I'd comment to say that some of the companies that went the route of LNG, they are facing the same problem as we just discussed. The anticipated reduction in the price of LNG didn't occur, and in Jamaica's case, we do have a single provider. I believe if competition were available, that those prices will go down. So yes, there's some buyer's remorse there. For those who are using renewables, I think if they take a second look now at the cost of deploying, especially solar, those costs are declining, and there should not be at this time any regrets. Once you put in a system that will ensure availability of power almost 24/7, and you can achieve that if you have sufficient battery storage.
Right.
Yes, but MP Paulwell, what you had said earlier about the what needs to be done, the whole concerns about the LNG and all of that. Some people may be wondering, these things are discussed in Parliament. What are the sticking points? What's holding up the progress? Why is it that persons would not agree to what you had said earlier? I mean, are these not common sense issues?
Well, for those who listened to my presentation yesterday, it was a presentation that reflected my frustration. When we lost power in 2016, that very year of the sectoral debate, I put it to the Parliament that the regulations for LNG, for the distribution, for the sale of LNG in Jamaica, those regulations were drafted. They were drafted from 2015. We are now at 2024. They haven't seen the light of day. I put forward the solution in relation to electricity theft 3 years ago in my presentation. I not only did it in my presentation, but I followed up with a private member's motion. It's on the order paper of the Parliament for 3 years. And every year we urge, let us deal with this issue. It's a critical issue. but nothing has happened.
But JPS itself needs to do more. Won't you say?
Yes, but government has a significant role to play. The issue of the theft of electricity can't be placed on the shoulders of JPS alone. It's a social problem. It's probably, well, and it is certainly a historical problem. I think it's going to require everybody to assist, and the government does have resources through the hedge tax to deploy, at least do a pilot to say the thing will work in some of the poor communities. Let us start with, say, 50,000 homes, even less, and use this solar solution that I've been proposing. You no longer need to have extensive roof space anymore. You have panels now that can fit on the humblest of homes. And you have the technology, the inverters, the batteries that are now lower price. I think it is within our grasp to do it, but we have been too sluggish, we have been too unfocused, and as a government, they have been too unstable in that ministry.
Yeah. Mr. Barrett, as we wind down our discussion, what can you say to the average householder out there listening in terms of advice, recommendations, suggestions going forward to reduce the cost?
Yes.
Yes.
The very first thing is energy efficiency. Use the energy that you need, use it wisely. There are devices that can help you to reduce your consumption and just behavioral change, turning lights off, turning fans off, and so on when you're not using them. That's the first step. The second step is to utilize the technology that's available, renewables, particularly solar for householders, where you don't have to go and get a 5 kilowatt system in one go. You can get a panel, 2 panels, 3 panels, and just keep going until you can get to the level that you want. And then battery prices are quite reasonable now, and so you can add a battery that will give you at least a little bit of night coverage during the from the generation of the sun. So these are just some options for the householder. Businesses can use the same strategy.
Yes. I don't know if Mr. MP Paul wanted to say anything on that matter.
No, I endorse what Mr. Barrett has said. I think we have not focused sufficiently on energy efficiency. The amazing thing is that we found in our survey that when people incorporate their own systems, like they move to renewables, they are better guardian of the use of their electricity. And in fact, they tend to care a lot more on what switches are turned off and how many times they open the refrigerator door and so on and so forth. Efficiency is key.
Yes. Okay. A fitting note on which to end, gentlemen. We want to thank you so very much for joining us this morning as we spoke about energy and renewable energy. Have a safe and productive day.
Thanks.
Thank you. You also.
Great. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information, who get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. This, of course, has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guests. I'm Dylan Toussaint, handing you back to Love in the Morning with Jukal Dyer.